Just got back from taking the dog for a ride. See, nice and worn out. Good boy. So it's a good time to show off some modifications I've done to the Kawasaki Super Sherpa. I think they're pretty useful things, so and not very expensive or a big deal to do. So hopefully you might find this interesting for your Super Sherpa or whatever bike you ride. You could do the same things I've done. Again, we'll start with the noticeable things first. LED light bar. Mounted that up, just made a couple of brackets out of some steel angle, mounted them behind the blinkers. It's a little bit difficult. I had to add an extra little notch into the bracket there. These little studs on the back of the mirror to keep it in place. But apart from that, pretty easy. I added a bit of foam backing in front of the plastic between the aluminium. But yeah, that's really solid mount on there. And that LED bar, which I'm very impressed with, is I got two for $30 delivered to my door with all the mounting brackets. With a nice waterproof plug connector already on it. And I plugged it into a little meter. Can't remember exactly what it drew, but I'm pretty sure it was about 3 amps. So, for most people you can just wire this up to your high beam globe without the need of a relay. Really simple to add on, without having to run wires all through. I've wired it up to the next model I'll show off, which is in this case, which is going to be hard to see what's in there. I might put a photo up that shows the open version of it. It's an old oven tray that you can see, chopped up with an angle grinder, fashioned into a battery box. A second battery in there. Also in behind there is a little voltage sensitive relay. It's a little 50 amp job. When I say little, I mean low current capacity, 50 amp, but that's fine. This has got a 15 amp alternator, and the battery I chose it specifically for its price. It's a lithium iron phosphate battery, but it's quite a cheap one, and I bought it. It's advertised as a motorcycle battery. The size, the actual physical size of it's a bit larger than the battery I've got. It didn't seem to be a very common fit for any motorcycle, and I think that's why the particular one I got was cheap. It was $59 delivered, and I'm yet to really put it to the test, but it's nice. It's obviously got its own little inbuilt charge controller in the case. You just feed it close enough to 12 to 14 volts with enough amps, and it charges the battery. And it's got a little status indicator LED on it, which I can't get to. Well, I've got it all covered up in there, but it's a nice feature. This button on the outside is a big heavy duty waterproof momentary push button. If I hold that in, it just shorts the relay terminals across to force the two batteries to join. So in the event that the main battery is too flat to start the bike, I can hopefully start it by holding in that button and joining up the two batteries to give it its own internal jump start. So yeah, I've got a couple of extra sets of leads running from that battery, and they run all the way up to the front. One goes to a switch, and I've currently got it running a pair of USB sockets. I'll show that in a minute. Yeah. This is good. It's I was a little concerned. I originally just had the bottom plate on it, and it was a little bit floppy, just held by the one bit of plate, and it was getting a little close to coming in line with the chain there. But since putting another one on, bolting it, it's super sturdy now, and it's got this little, it's hard to see there, it's got a little kick out, so it's well clears it. It's lovely. Right, while we're here, this thing, oh well, behind this thing we better start. So this big mud guard, that's off the Stockman. Yeah, that's just a nice feature I like to have. There's a lot of mud out here, and it's actually quite useful at stopping it from getting everywhere. So that required this plastic, under fender plastic, to be changed, which, you know, wasn't a big deal, just because the moulding on the bottom of it is different. On the Super Sherpa, it's got like a little spot to mount your license plate and a little reflector, you know, red reflector, it looks like that, on the bottom of it. But I've taken that off, and then once I've taken that off, I've mounted this on, which I don't have a key on me to unlock at the moment, so but it's screwed through onto the metal bracket, this metal bracket here, that, you know, is bracing for that. So while there's a little bit of wobble in it, it's still fairly secure. I'm not too worried about it. And if it did become a concern at any point, I can just attach it to this top bar as well. Put a little bit of bracing over. Yeah, that's nice. Little lockable toolbox. I'm going to use that as a toolbox. It's got a reasonable depth, and it's also a really quite convenient spot to mount a number plate on. I reckon that's about the size of a motorcycle number plate right there. And the exhaust might look like it's a bit of a concern, but this Kawasaki Super Sherpa kicks out the exhaust on this angle. That's still a bit hot from when I was riding it, but yeah, it doesn't come straight out, it comes out on an angle like that, and there's very little hot exhaust actually gets to that plastic there, so I'm quite happy with that. I wouldn't have gone a yellow one, except I had one laying around. I'm not keen on painting plastic. I might well change it in the future, maybe put a slightly slimmer one on there as well. This black or army green one. Alright, while we're here, this rack, that came off the Stockman, and that rack required a few modifications of things to get on. I had to modify this plastic. It doesn't have cutouts. Oh, I don't know if you can see that, maybe in the light a bit better. So I've made a cutout for the plastic there, and yeah, it didn't have that originally. I also had to make some at the back here, but that was because I had to move these brackets. I actually drilled out a hole in, there's two holes in these brackets. Usually one of the holes sits over a peg, the other one sits over a bolt. So I drilled out one hole to make it slightly wider, so I could bolt it onto an existing bolt that was just further backwards or forwards, either way I can't remember. But whichever way it was, it allowed me just enough room to sort of ninja in the indicator on the original bracket. And I just like keeping things original as possible. I've got the original blinkers on the original bracket. They are now on a slight upwards angle. That just means that, you know, people know which way you're turning when you're doing wheelies, which is always a good thing. So, very happy with this rack. I'm just in the planning stage now of coming up with, you know, some mount steel tube structure that I can stick on there, bolt on there, to use for pannier racks, just so I can cover, you know, clear the exhaust so I don't melt whatever I strap to it. I'd like to strap tents and things like that to it. They're pretty plasticky, I need to keep them off there. And same on this side. I've got just enough room both sides to clear the exhaust and the new battery tray that I've put on there. Alright, what else have I done? At the front here, one extra switch. That's for the LED bar. I can turn that on and off when the bike's turned off, and it just draws straight off the second battery, so there's no chance of that drawing the main battery. Likewise, there's a master light switch here, so that I can turn, if the bike is running, I can stop the lights from automatically being on as soon as the bike is running. Next to that, I've got another switch there. That's switching power that's coming up from the back, which is going to these USB ports. How well you can see that, it's a bit dark. Yeah, a couple of USB ports there. I did have them mounted differently this morning, but I mounted them up last night, and overnight the double-sided sticky crap they came with was crap. It just didn't work. Here we got a front mudguard now. That came off the Stockman as well. Likewise, these little, I don't know what you call them, I like to call them cable collectors, but these little wire guides that run your wires and tubes for your brakes. I'm a big fan of that sort of thing, so I've got those there. And that, I think, is it for the moment. Oh, I did the side stand as well. So that side stands off the Stockman, and it is slightly longer, maybe, I don't know, 25 mil longer, maybe. But yeah, it's slightly longer, and it's got a much bigger, chunkier foot on it that actually sits on the dirt out here instead of digging into it. And yeah, I appreciate the slight extra height and the rest of it too. But that's it. That's all the modifications I've done as of yet. There's a few more to come. I've got a mobile phone holder coming. I'm hoping does the job. If I don't have GPS going or whatever. So definitely a bit more rack work for the backs there, definitely with the panniers, and then I'd like to have a couple of interchangeable tops. I want something to put this guy on. He needs a good position on the quacker, on the quacker, and yeah, maybe just a nice waterproof storage container on there as well. Anyway, I've come up with all this on the cheap. The $60 battery was by far the most expensive bit. That voltage sensitive relay was $22 delivered, I think. Yeah, so all up, $30 for a pair of those lights. I've got one of them on my car. It's for the price, you just can't beat them. I got them off eBay. I won't bother to try and link it or anything. If you'd be interested, you'll find them on eBay. It was an Australian seller. They were sent very quickly. As soon as I got them, my friend wanted some. I ordered him some late last week. They're here now. So yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it. If any of you are Kawasaki Super Sherpa or Stockman fans and find any of this interesting, please leave a comment. I would love to hear from somebody else who's as keen on these bikes as I am.